Hello. Okay, so I just told this story over my TikTok, but it is way too long a story for TikTok, but I'd already decided in my brain that that was the story I was going to tell today, so then I told like the shortened version of it on my TikTok. Well, here's what officially happened. So when I was in college, for some reason, me and this group of friends, every time Biggest Loser would host their season finale, we would also host like a giant party that we would create these elaborate drinking rules to. Why did we choose Biggest Loser? No clue. We just did. Anyway, it was Biggest Loser finale night. Everybody was over, and a certain amount in, I turned to my best friend and her boyfriend. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm gonna have to spend the night, with my roommate because we've had way too much to drink. And they were like, oh, we're glad you say that because that means we're gonna have a double decker. And I was like, what's that mean, buddy? That's when they reveal that, upstairs they had their master bedroom, they had their roommate's bedroom, Kay, and then their guest bedroom that they had put a bunk bed in. And the double decker is what they were calling it when somebody slept in the top bunk and somebody slept in the bottom bunk. So they're very excited. It was the first night, we're like, the party carries on. Well, then everybody, heads to bed. Kay goes to bed. I hop into the bottom bunk. My roommate hops in the top bunk. And my best friend and her boyfriend go to grab the camera because they're like, we're going to take a picture of this to commemorate the evening. And because everybody had so much to drink, we were like, that sounds like a brilliant idea. So then, my best friend starts taking pictures and they realize, they can't quite get us all in the picture. So they're like, hey, roommate, we need you to get a little bit further down. And my roommate was like, oh my gosh, yeah. And so starts leans way too far, falls out, hits the ground so hard. And she was this far from the radiator. I couldn't tell at first if she hit the radiator or the ground or the what. And everybody in there is just frozen. And my best friend is still just taking pictures. And when I asked her about it later, she was like, this was the only thing I could think that when the police would come that I could show them that this was all a terrible accident. And I was like, smart thinking. Well, all of a sudden my roommate starts to shake on the ground and we were like, oh no! Well, then she starts laughing and that's when we were like, oh my gosh, she's okay. She's just laughing. Well, she starts to laugh so hard she pees her pants, which then causes me to laugh so hard I almost pee my pants / I'm laughing so hard I can't breathe. I make it to the bathroom. We have everything figured out. The friend's okay. And we end up, and honestly, I'm gonna be honest, I've got 5 other stories about a Biggest Loser, finale party night where my roommate would come over and she would, pee her pants after something would happen. So this was, extra funny because we're she's done it so many times now. It'd be weird if she didn't. So we shower her, get her to bed because once again, it was routine. And that was when, I started to crawl into the bottom bunk and she starts to crawl into the bottom bunk. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I just follow the top bunk. I'm not going to go up there again. And I was like, I watched you follow the top bunk and I'm still really tipsy. I'm not going to go sleep up there. So her and I decide we're just going to spoon and be cozy all night. Well, later on that evening, I wake up, I have to go to the bathroom. I stand up and I'm like, wow, that alcohol is still in my system. I stumble in the dark. I get to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom. I drink a bunch of water. And then, I stumble to go, back into bed. And, it's really dark. I don't really know the place very well. Well, I get into a room. I shut the door. And I go to, crawl over the bunk bed. But I'm not hitting it. I'm just, tripping over stuff. And I'm like, what in the... So then, I kind of in the darkness kind of figure out where the wall is. And then I'm, at the wall, running my hands all over it, running into things and being like, what in the heck is happening? Because then I'm trying to find a light switch and I just don't know what's going on. And then out of pure luck, I hit a mattress. And I'm like, thank goodness. So then I start to crawl into the mattress and all of a sudden, the TV turns on. And I was like, what is the TV turning on for? And it illuminates the fact that it was actually my best friend's roommate, Kay. And he's sitting there and he's like, and I was like, ah! And I just left. And I didn't explain anything about it because, I said, I was still pretty gone. Curled back up in, the bunk bed with my roommate and fell asleep. Well, that morning, me and the roommate left super early. We just left a note that said bye, left out the door. Well, that morning, their roommate Kay, my best friend and her boyfriend are sitting around having breakfast. And Kay's like, and going through this whole thing. And Kay was a really nice guy. But the very first night I ever met Kay, he decided he was going to show me his samurai sword he'd bought. And then he pulls it out and then he cuts himself really badly, but we don't know it at the time. But then because he cut himself so badly in front of everybody, he was like, well, time to go to bed. And then went upstairs and just soaked through 15 t-shirts trying to staunch the bleeding, but he didn't want to tell anybody because he didn't want to be embarrassed. But then we found out about it later and then... he's just a really nice guy. It just was not the guy for me. Well, he absolutely thought that I tried to sneak into his room to be like, hey, what's up? Absolutely not. So he's trying to figure it out. And that's, of course, my best friend, when, it all comes out, calls me up and she's like, did you do this last night? And at first I was like, no, I didn't. Oh my gosh, I did. And she's like, now he thinks that you're in love with him. And I was like, not samurai. No. So then, in an effort to make sure that he absolutely knew that it was a joke and like I did not mean it, like literally, like that was my routine every time I come over to the house. At one point I'd be like, oh god, okay, because I really didn't want him to think that I liked him, but he absolutely thought that I was in love with him for like a solid 2 months. So that was the story. Definitely way longer than a TikTok is available, but it's one of my favorite college stories. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.